Mister.
Hey everyone, Mr. Dempsey here. This is lap guide for rounds 5 and 13 of the GR Supra GT Cup on Nurburgring 24h. Let's get this started. Brake just after the track on your left starts to extend. This is the best area to brake, as you'll have some space to be able to trail brake as you approach the apex. Then go a little wide to try to give yourself some more space. Go at full throttle for just a moment and then brake. Be aware of how much throttle you're giving, as it's easy to spin out here. Once the car is mostly straightened out, you can start to fully accelerate. Brake when the track that goes to the right ends. You can control your throttle or even just use a tad bit of braking to control how fast you're going. Try to hug the inside of the turn, as you want to be on the left side of the turn by the time you approach the next turn. Start to brake before the curb on the left ends. You can go through this turn about half throttle, and once the car is pointing towards the next section, go at full throttle. Start to brake just before the curb on the left starts. You want to slow down as much as you can, so that way you can start to hug the inside of the turn. Then you can start to very slowly accelerate until you're facing towards the next section where you can start to fully accelerate. However, be aware that it's pretty easy to slide a bit through this turn, so get ready to catch your car in case it wants to do that. Ease off on the throttle once you start to turn. This is so you can get on the curb on the inside a bit more comfortably, and once you're off of that curb, you can continue to go at full throttle. Start to brake as soon as the light gray curb that's on the right ends. You can go through this turn at half throttle, and once you complete the turn, you can go at full throttle. However, get your car to the left side as early as you can, because you'll need to brake very soon after, and then go through that turn at around half throttle as well, before you can go at full throttle. Brake just after you pass the 100-meter mark. As you approach the first apex, go at half throttle. In between the apexes, go at full throttle. And when you hit the second apex, go at half throttle again, and then you can fully accelerate once you're cleared of that apex. Try to get your car to the middle, because you'll need to brake soon after you pass the two turns behind you. So this is a pretty long turn, so you'll do most of your braking here, and then you can do some braking and accelerating to adjust your car, because the apex is at the very end where the track officially joins the Nordschleife layout. Just after the pit wall ends, you can go just a tiny bit to your right to give yourself just a little more room to navigate this turn. Of course, brake just after the pit wall ends, and then just slowly start to accelerate as you go through the turn. Once your car is about to reach the sign that's on your left, ease off on the throttle to around half throttle, and then you can go through this turn and then start to fully accelerate once you pass the apex. Brake around here so you can tackle the first turn. You'll also do a little more braking just after you hit the first apex so you can get through the second part of the turn. You can start to fully accelerate once you're cleared with both turns. Ease off on the throttle for this first turn. For the second turn, apply some brakes so you can get your car to the right side as soon as possible, because you'll need to brake even more shortly after. Brake shortly after the surface changes color. When you're going through this turn, make sure you don't take too much advantage of the curb and the grass above it, because there's a little bump, and if you start to accelerate, once you hit that bump, you're going to risk losing control. Once your car is facing towards the apex of the next part of the turn, you can start to fully accelerate. Shortly after the jump, there's a little dip, and that's where you start to brake. Gently start to accelerate after you brake, because if you accelerate too fast, you'll start to lose control. Try to follow this dark line, and that's more or less a good guide to let you know that you're on the right track. Brake when you're between the first row and the second row of signs. This is a long sweeping turn, so you want to be mindful of how much throttle you're giving as you go through this turn. Brake just before the curb on the left ends. This is another longish turn, so you can take your time going through this turn, and when your car is starting to face towards the next section, you can start to fully accelerate. Brake just barely before the curb on the right starts. However, try to get your car in the middle of the road, because when you start to brake, you're going to be veering off towards the right, so you want to give yourself some space. And once you go through the turn, you can go at half throttle, then you can go at full throttle shortly after before you need to brake. There's a little bit of off turn because you need to get your car situated in the middle when the turn ends. And once you're about to approach the crosswalk, start to brake, and then try to get your car to the left side of the track as soon as you can, because then you'll need to go about half throttle when you go to the apex, and then fully accelerate once you're facing towards the next section of the road. Start your brake as you pass the blue billboard that's on your right. This will be a quick and short brake, so that way you can get through this turn without much problem. Just after you pass the writing that's on the track, start to brake. This turn also goes a bit more in, so you want to brake a bit more so that way you can compensate for it. Once you go through the turn, be careful and try not to go too much over the curb, because you can risk losing control that way. If you end up taking the curb, go to 5th gear so that way you get a bit less power but you get more stability. When you're in line with the second sign, which you see right here in the video, start to slow down and start to accelerate once you're done with the turn. Go at this first turn at half throttle, then the next turn at full throttle, and then before the curb on the right starts, you want to brake hard before a short amount of time. Then you want to go through this whole turn at under half throttle, trying to follow the black line. Do most of your braking right here, so that way when you go through this first part of the turn, you can lift off the brake, make the turn, and then brake again shortly after. Try to get your car to the left side of the track as soon as you can, so that way you can go through this turn going at full throttle. Brake when you're in line with the porta potty that's on the right side. This turn also goes inward more, so you want to brake right here, and that way once your car is parallel to the tracks after you're done with the turn, you can start to fully accelerate. Make sure you get your car to the left side of the track, because you need to brake before the curb on the left ends, then go through the turn, and then you can accelerate once you hit the apex. However, be aware that this track or this part of the track gets a little rough, so you want to be a bit more aware of how rough the road is before you start to fully accelerate. Start to brake when you reach this blue marker-ish thing that's on the track. You don't want to accelerate until you start to see the next section of the track. When you reach the gray curb that's on the right, you want to apply a full amount of braking but for a short amount of time. That way, when you go through the turn, you can start to slowly accelerate while maintaining a high rate of speed. However, be careful because the car might want to start sliding around here, so get ready to catch a car in case it wants to do that. And for the next turn, you want to just ease off on the throttle so that way you can keep full control of the car. Brake before the curb on the left starts. When you go through the turn, you want to accelerate very slowly because even accelerating just a little too fast can result in the car wanting to lose control. Brake shortly after you pass this last tree that's before the carousel. So when you go through the turn, go at about half throttle or just a little under to try to maintain speed, and once you're starting to face towards the next section, go out full throttle. Brake just before the curb on the right starts. This turn will get you set up for the next few turns, so make sure you hit the apex and start to fully accelerate right after. Then you want to ease off the throttle for this turn and then brake well before the curb on the left ends. Do not go full throttle until your car is pointing towards the next section of the track. Brake for a short moment and then stick to the right side of the track. Brake for another short moment and stay on the left side of the tracks. Brake just after the curb on the left ends and start to fully accelerate when you're done with the turn. Brake before the curb on the left ends and try to get yourself to the right side of the track as soon as you can. Brake around here. Go at half throttle through this turn and stay on the left side of the track. Brake when the curb on the left ends. Don't fully accelerate until you're done with the turn. Brake before the curb on the left ends and smoothly accelerate your way through this turn. Brake around here. This turn goes a bit more inward, so make sure you slow down for that. Once your car is alongside the outside of the curbs, you can start to fully accelerate. Brake before you clear the jump. Complete this first turn and make sure you stabilize the car before you can start to fully accelerate. Ease off on the throttle to let your car turn more while retaining stability. Once again, ease off on the throttle so your car can retain control. Brake before you reach the digital flag that's on your right. Try to get your car as inside as you can and stay on the right side. Brake around here. You do not want to fully accelerate until you're starting to transfer from the left to the right side of the track. Brake just before you reach the apex sign that's on your right. You want to go through this turn as inside as you can, but do not start to fully accelerate until you're nearly done with the turn. Briefly brake before the curb on the left ends. You want to go through this turn, start to fully accelerate shortly after you pass the apex. And when you're starting to go through the next turn, you want to ease off on the throttle for a short moment before you can start to fully accelerate. This is to make sure that you stay on track. Start to slow down well before the curb on the left ends. The thing is that the car doesn't have the best brakes in the world since it's not a group car, so you want to give yourself a ton of space so you can brake and still have space in case some errors are made. And then when you go through this next turn, make sure you clear the apex before you start to fully accelerate. And that's all for the guide. Non-commentary version is coming up, but anyways, hope you found the guide useful. This is Mr. MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.